Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Lorenz Larkin to defeat Costas Philippou. And I'm here to talk about Jose Johnson versus Damone Blackshear. Johnson is making his debut here. He is taking this fight on very short notice, but he's already been signed to the UFC for a while now. So I don't think he's doing this out of complete desperation. It's not like he's trying to get his foot in the door. But still, despite I'm sure being in shape and pretty healthy, taking a fight on a few days' notice can't be ideal. So there's that. He is 28 years old. He's got a record of 15-7. He's got 2 inches of height, but giving up 1 inch of reach to 29-year-old Blackshear, who is 13-5-1. Jose Johnson, most of his wins come via knockout. He's got 8 knockout wins, just 2 submissions and 5 decisions. The knockouts, he's got great power, Jose Johnson. He's got the touch. He definitely he's a big guy, very big guy for his division, but he's got the magic touch. He knocked out the guy Dulani Perry, who's a former Ultimate Fighter winner, or not winner, I'm sorry, Ultimate Fighter contestant and loser. But he knocked him out with 1 punch. That was 2 fights ago. He knocked him out in 12 seconds. He knocked out the guy Rafael Costa, who's a very good fighter outside the UFC, and he knocked him dead with 1 Travis Brown elbow, which is a downward elbow as the guy is shooting in on you, trying to take you down. And that's one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen. I know I use that expression every fucking week now, but it really is. It was fucking brutal. He's also got a flying knee over this guy Javier, which, whatever, but it is nice to have a flying knee. Even Chael Sonnen had a flying knee. But yeah, he's a dangerous guy. Definitely got the touch. And I'd say if he wins this fight, it's probably via knockout. Especially considering that he's taken the fight on short notice. He's got 2 submission victories. One of them over this guy Mo Miller, who's not a bad fighter at all. And that was with a triangle choke. And that was in round 2 after he had his back taken in round 1. And, had to survive there. He's not a fish out of water on the ground, but it's definitely his biggest weakness. I'd say he's much more likely to be submitted than knocked out, but overall the wrestling really is his primary weakness. He has 7 losses, 1 of them via knockout, 3 via submission, 3 via decision. The 1 knockout loss does come in his most recent loss, and it's to Mana Martinez, or Leo Mana Martinez, who is, I think, still a current UFC fighter. He might not be, for all I know, but last I checked, he is. And he's a very dangerous guy, Mana Martinez, and he clipped Johnson with a big left hook. His chin failed him there. It's not like he was, TKO'd from ground and pound or whatever. But that's the only time he's been knocked out. The 3 submission losses, he's got all 3 of them in round 1. 1 to an armbar, 2 to rear naked chokes. The guy Levi Moles rear naked choked him. That's his most recent submission loss. That guy's a very good wrestler who can kick a lot of ass in the UFC. And he's also got 3 decisions. The last 2 come to Ronnie Lawrence on the Contender Series, in which he was dominated, wrestling-wise. Dominated. Although he didn't stop working and, exploded up and, made him work for it. But still, wrestling was the story of that fight. And Armando Villarreal also beat him by decision. That's the guy that O'Day Osborne armbarred to get onto onto the UFC roster. His most recent win comes on the Contender Series where he got his redemption, and that's how he got signed. He beat Jack Cartwright. Jack Cartwright just couldn't hang with him. He outlasted Jack Cartwright, and Jack Cartwright took him down and had a good amount of control, but it wasn't enough, and he was outgunned everywhere else. So, Jose Johnson, he is capable of fighting hard for 15 minutes. I mean, his decision record is 5-3. He's still quite beatable there, but if he's not fighting someone who can out-wrestle him, then he's probably favored to win. He's a very dangerous guy on the feet. But he's fighting Damone Blackshear. Damone Blackshear is a good wrestler. He's good everywhere, but primarily a good wrestler. He's got 13 wins, 2 via knockout or TKO, 8 via submission, and 3 via decision. And that last win he has is one of those 2 knockouts or TKOs. So cool for him. That was a big win over Luan Lacerda. Second round TKO where Lacerda just got too comfortable going for a leg lock. Actually, maybe he was uncomfortable and that's why he went for it. But, Luan Lacerda found out, like a lot of guys have found out, you can't just go for leg locks with somebody that's a versatile fighter like Damon Blackshear and very heavy on top, which he is. He's definitely more likely to get a submission, as his record shows. He's got 8 subs, and he is a really good monster on top. He's a really good grappler on top, and that is how he beat Luan Lacerda. Again, it's a TKO victory, but the grappling got him the victory there. He has lost 5 times, and those are the 5 times he's been out-grappled, and they're all to very good fighters. Farid Basharat beat him in the UFC. Danny Sabatello, Pat Sabatini, Chris Moutinho, and this guy Keith Richardson all beat him outside the UFC. Those are some very good fighters. Sabatini, he's in the UFC. Danny Sabatello, even though he just got tapped, he's one of the better fighters in Bellator. And Chris Moutinho, yeah, he was a limited guy and whatever the fuck, but he made it to the UFC. So there's that. If he's not fighting a superior wrestler, he's probably favored to win, and he is fighting an inferior wrestler here. So I'm favoring Damon Blackshear. I think Damon Blackshear, he hasn't looked too vulnerable to strikes, although against Yusuf Zalal in round 3, he ran into a lot of trouble there. Yusuf Zalal was beating the shit out of him, hurting his body, and that was the closest, easily, he's come to being finished, aside from maybe a few tight chokes throughout his career and whatever. But certainly via strikes, from what I've seen, that's the closest he's come. And that was a draw. That's his one draw, because he won the first 2 rounds, and then even though he started to fall apart in the end, he made it to the final bell and preserved the draw there. So credit to him. I believe he took the fight on short notice as well. But here I think he's going to out-wrestle Jose Johnson. I do think Jose Johnson could knock him out, because he could knock anyone out, and I would bet on that in round 1. But Damon Blackshear is the pick. I would pick this by decision if Jose Johnson was on a full camp here, but he's not. So I think it's very possible Damon Blackshear gets a submission late into the fight, 2nd or 3rd round. I expect him to be winning the wrestling battle. Hopefully he's smart enough to use his wrestling here, because Damon's not a bad striker at all. But, I don't think he's going to be able to play the long, rangy game, even though he's quite an athlete and he's got a lot of speed. Jose Johnson is too dangerous, and he's very fucking big. So, Damon Blackshear uses his wrestling. Damon Blackshear wins this fight. I've bet on his money line because it's available, minus 195, but I will look into the prop bets. Damon Blackshear via 2nd and 3rd round submission, and Jose Johnson via 1st round knockout. I think it will be a wrestling battle, but of course, when they're fresh, they're going to be on the feet. And this guy is very dangerous, so may as well, if the odds are worth it, may as well throw a sprinkle, because I think that's his only path to victory. And again, even though I think that Damon Blackshear has never been knocked out, so I don't have a lot of faith in that. But Damon Blackshear via 2nd and 3rd round submission, I have a lot more faith in that. I think that's more possible, and of course, decision is possible. But Damon Blackshear wrestling is what's going to get him that victory regardless. So right now I've just played his money line. We'll see what happens. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.